I am going to talk about European financing for the next half an hour. And for that, I'm definitely going to sit down. And it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Emmanuel Eckert, Deputy Acquisition Director at Mediawan Rights from France. Give him a hand. Andrea Scarso, Investment Director at IPR.VC. Welcome. And Karin Annell, Head of Commercial Business and International Affairs at Wildside in Italy. Hi, Karin. And I think we have we're not just talking about European financing, but I also think we have a truly European panel. I mean, if I just talk about myself, I'm Dutch. I used to work for a Belgian company. Now I work for all 3 Scandinavian territories living in Sweden. Karin, you are
Swedish.
Get your mic.
Oh, sorry. Jag är svensk.
Yeah.
I'm Swedish, but I work and live in Italy since 23 years. So I never really worked in Scandinavia.
No, okay.
In
So
Italy.
you always worked in Italy in that
Yes.
sense. Andrea, you are Italian.
I'm Italian, living in London, technically British now as well, because of the Brexit situation, and working for a Finnish company.
I'm working for a Finnish company.
I've only been to Finland twice so far, so it's still quite new.
But you'll come back, I
I
suppose.
will definitely come back and go back this year.
Yeah. And Emmanuel, you're just French living in France,
yes,
right?
I'm very boring. I'm French living in France, but I've been so many times in the Scandi and the Nordics, and so. But yes, I'm very boring. I know.
No, but I mean, and we'll get back to that. I think you know everything about what every European territory has to offer nowadays, and we see you a lot in Central Eastern Europe as well. So it's not super fair to say you're just French living in France. Let me properly introduce you, Emmanuel. Mediawan acquisitions. What is it that you do exactly?
Well, what I do is try to go to every countries in Europe and Canada and try to know all the producers, even if it's quite impossible because you are too much, there are too many of you, and try to analyze TV series and buy TV series. So basically what I'm trying to do is really to buy worldwide sales, distribution rights for TV series in every countries. And like it's the keywords of this festival. I can bring some money, but I can also bring some love, and that's really
money and love. That is what we want.
Exactly. So that's really my job, to try to finance with the producers every TV series, and then to distribute them worldwide, and then to earn a lot of money for everybody.
I'm going to steal that line.
And love, of course.
We bring money and love. I'm going to steal that from you.
So what is it that you do, Andrea?
So we invest money from mainly institutional investors in the Nordics.
Yeah.
And we deploy in film and TV for a global market.
Is it easy to understand, or should the mic be a little,
sorry.
maybe, yeah.
So we invest in global film and TV projects, raising money mainly from institutional investors in the Nordics. So most of my time is spent with investors and potential investors, trying to explain to them the good reasons to invest in this industry, also trying to navigate them on the complexity and the changes in the industry, which is not an easy job. And then half of my time is spent looking for investment opportunities and partners across the globe.
I would love to know more about that, but we'll take that a little bit later. Sure. Karin, welcome home.
Yeah, but I'm from Stockholm. It's a big difference. No,
that
sorry.
That is a big difference. Even as an outsider, I even know that. Yes, definitely. So what is it that you do on a daily basis?
In this setup, we are producers.
Yeah.
We produce feature films, TV series, sometimes documentaries, and we need money from him, and we need him to sell our products. Yeah, so that's what we do. And I'm basically focused on co-productions, financing, and the commercial point of our productions.
And we know Wildside from, for example, The Young Pope, any other TV series?
Someone might know My Brilliant Friend.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
So, yeah, very, I would say, international, Italian series with a very international footprint. Let's start the funny thing is when I talked to all of you, you were all like, we're going to be positive. We're going to have a positive mindset here on stage, talk about opportunities. So I just want to get the challenges out of the way. What is it? How has the crisis affected you, Emmanuel?
What crisis?
Exactly.
Which one? No.
The slowdown,
yeah.
the market correction, the bubble busting,
the end of
whatever
TV, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's really festival and market after market. It's always the same thing. The market is tough. It's tougher than before, blah, blah, blah. And it's true, but not that much. I still think there is a lot of possibilities. And if we consider all Europe, just for now, not just Scandi, but all Europe. So yes, the main issue for us as distributor is the gigantesque amount of TV series produced this year.
Yeah.
Too much
the high
TV
volume,
series,
yeah.
the very high volume.
Yeah.
And so our clients, which are the broadcasters and the streamers, they cannot buy everything. They cannot commission everything. Or if they do, it won't be the same quality than before. So
And that's the same all over Europe, you would say?
Yes, mainly.
Okay.
Yes, I think so, mainly.
Yeah.
And so, but this will naturally balance next year or for the next year. It was, as always, very interesting yesterday with the Amper analysis with Gibson. It was very interesting to see all the trends and everything. I guess we will talk about co-production very soon, but that's the key for me. And so the market will regulate itself.
In 18 months, he promised us.
Yes,
so
that's good.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
Exactly. But so no, it's tough. Of course, we have less clients because some streamers has disappeared in 2023. Yeah. But we manage. We find new ways to co-produce, to co-finance, and to help the producer to have their series produced.
Yeah. And I definitely want to talk about that later. Andrea, how is the...
No,
I mean, you just started, actually.
I just started with IPR, yeah. I think 2023 for IPR has been an opportunity to spend more time looking at opportunities. As Emmanuel said, there's a market correction, too much volumes. So he's trying to identify the areas where there's still an opportunity for an upside. Our investors have an appetite for risk.
You are the upside, actually.
Which, well, it needs to be balanced by the upside. So, and our approach is quite unique in the sense that we are looking for what we call strategic partnerships with international production companies and studios and sales company. We don't do the single picture.
Not single projects.
The single project.
Okay, so only slates.
It's late because we provide strategic capital to enable these partners to plan on a slate for not just what it's this year, but years ahead, and we understand that they need the support and they need the certainty to be able to access a certain amount of capital, and we help in the green lighting process with them. Yeah. So I think to keep a positive spin, I think that there's a lot of opportunities for businesses that want to set up in a ways that they don't need to sell part of the business necessarily if they can find investors like IPR that can provide the strategic access to capital. And I think it would be great news if there were more of these type of private equity
coming into.
And I think the slowdown is an opportunity to spend time with investors because it takes time to explain to them how the industry works and where the potentials are. So I think now is the good time to do that. And
I will get to you, Karin, but it's quite interesting. How do you actually assess?
So I think our approach is very much we spend a lot of time with the creative teams in those companies and the management team and trying to understand the vision for the future and the slate and what they put together and trying to see if we can help them achieve that vision. And we're looking at the track record, we're looking at some of the creative elements, but we're trying to be sort of as supportive as possible in that process and also trying to be trusted conduit for the investment sector to go into the industry. Because I think that there's a lot of money around, there's a lot of capital available, but not much is coming to our industry. No. And I think we need to ask ourselves why. And
why is that?
Well, I think there's a knowledge gap. There is a misunderstanding sometimes of how the industry works and lack of transparency, and sometimes the lack of the upside. I think with
the return on investment must be.
Yeah, I think with the increase in interest rates, it was so easy to make money in a much safer way somewhere else. So those type of investors move to other industries. I think what we need to pitch is that potential to generate the hit, generate the big returns for the type of investors that have an appetite for that. And it takes time. And I think that's what IPR has been doing so well in the Nordics before I joined, so I take no credit for that.
Yeah.
But we are trying to do more of that now in international fundraising. And also our two strongest partners right now are in the US. There's a company called XYZ Films and one is A24. But we are now focusing more into the TV market, and we are definitely focusing more in EU countries and the UK. I would love to say just Europe, but the UK is complexity around it.
I think you're going to be quite popular here after saying this. This was already going into an optimistic, the upsides, etc. But Karin, take us back to what are your challenges as
reality?
Yes.
No, I'm very happy to hear what you say, both Andrea and Emmanuel, because we are producers. We find ourselves in the bubble that burst, and
also in Italy, yes.
Yes, and we have very difficult times putting together financing. We find ourselves with half of the projects being put in turnaround. That didn't happen a year ago, or whenever a broadcaster or streamer committed to a development deal, 9 out of 10 or even more, you went into production.
Yeah.
So also for us producers, we were much more, how can I say, we invested, also spent our money on further production because we knew it was going to be put into production. It wasn't risk money, it was just like putting things in a smoother way to go, that's not what's happening right
anymore.
now.
No.
It's not at all. So I'm very happy to hear that you coming from a fund, equity fund, that was something that we have used in film financing.
Yeah.
I come from film finance, from feature films, so that's my kind of DNA. But equity financing is something we have seen, or personally, our company, only for feature films. But now I know you do it also for TV series, TV productions.
Yeah, correct. And I think that's obviously it's not a new sort of topic, but I think a lot of the TV financing models are similar now to the film financing models.
They are, yeah.
And that crossover happens, not just now, but it's happening slowly over the last few years. But I think that's a key to implement a more successful financing plans and rationalizing budgets, rationalizing financing plans, thinking about ways to access local incentives, soft monies, collaborations, and then applying that model that is the gap deficit financing and the equity financing that we know so well in films, and I think in TV can really be profitable. Then again, I think if you put all your eggs in one basket and doing the one project finance, it's very tricky, and no one wants to take the responsibility. I don't want to be the one stock picking the market myself for that one project. That's why we are using the approach of a slate financing. I think that's how we diversify the risk, but also maximize the opportunities to generate the hit. And we enable these companies that we work with to plan accordingly.
Yeah,
because of course, it takes time to produce, and you can follow what the trends in the market are today. And with presentation like yesterday, we have a good, I think, visibility over the next 2 or 3 years. But the reality is that no one knows what's going to be very popular and works well for the audiences in 2 years' time. Yeah. But now is the time to plan for that time. Yeah. So we want to be their supporting partner.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think that equity investment could be very important because what we also see is that international distributors tend to put up with less MG because it's a higher risk. And if
I don't know what to talk about. I don't know. Really?
But in that case, equity financing could be a good way to share the risk with the distributor. And I guess there are new models and structures to work on to carve out rights, territories, split fees, whatever it is. But I think that is what we are seeing more and more in the TV financing, new creative ways of putting together your financing.
Do you have an example of a new creative way, how you put something together?
Not, you mean a case that we have done that? Yeah, but we are working on more than one financial structure
Yeah.
in this way. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are working also on this.
Yeah, let's hear from the distributor. Indeed.
Yes, for this one, it's true.
Are the MGs going down?
Yes,
Okay.
and no. It's very different from it's a new market. So it's true that because we have more TV series, we cannot give the same MG that we used to give. But our MG are still related with the money we can earn about it. So
Is it a percentage of the budget?
we usually we can give between 10 to 15% max
Okay.
as an MG. If it's more, we will enter it into a new way of producing. We can have some equity, something like that. But usually we stay at 10 or 15%. But I would say that about the MG, it's not only about money. Money is not the biggest issue. Of course, we need some money, and we are also trying to do some co-financement. We could develop some project to help the producer to finance their Bible or their first scripts. So, but the main issue is trying to find the talents. And if we have the talents, we will find the money. So, and we are here as the distributor trying to do the link between the streamers, the broadcasters, trying to do some windowing between streamers and broadcasters. And in some countries, it's okay, we can do that. In other countries, it's very difficult. Yeah. It's difficult when we talk with the public broadcaster. It's sometimes we have a real conflict. Try to say, okay, you cannot finance the whole show like you used to do before. So let us do the gap, and if it's not with an MG, it could be with a second window in your territory, and all this kind of new way to finance it. And it's like we are always trying to invent new model, which is very challenging, very interesting. But at the end, if the show is good, we find a way.
I like that. If the show is good, the money will be found. That's basically
and that I think is the key. You know, whilst the business model might change and distribution change, but they always change in our industry.
They have always been changing.
Always been changing.
I remember the downfall of DVD.
Yeah, I remember VHS. But yeah, it's. I think there is an enduring value on premium quality. You know, and I think even in TV we can see there with the windowing and new channel fast, whatever. I think the change in approach is that risk is not a negative thing if it's balanced by a potential upside that justify the risk. And of course, not crazy risk. It has to be an educated guess of what the risk perception is. But I think applying that model into TV and in films and in our industry in general, I think that's the way to find new money and new investors, because there is a huge appetite. There's venture capital and private equity funds are now at the highest they've ever been. There's so much capital in the market. Why are these not coming to our industry? Because they don't see the potential for upside. There's a lot of banks, there's a lot of people lending money, but you make small margins and you take a big risk because we know they're risky. That proposition does not work for those type of investors.
What is very interesting is talking about the streamers, because now it's been 10 years, maybe a little bit more, 15 years that streamers have arrived in our industry and changed everything, which is good in many, many ways. And the last year or last 18 months, I don't know, they also changed their way to produce. Yeah. They used to be global streamer, and more they are local streamer.
More flexible.
More flexible. They can let some territories, or they can only produce for a region, not a territory but a region. Yeah. We have Amazon Scandi, Netflix Scandi. We have Amazon Benelux Scandi, Netflix Benelux, and so they are talking about region, which is very interesting for us as a distributor and for you as a producer and talents. Is that now we have third party, fourth parties, we can build financial plan knowing that we will have some territories left. And talking about Netflix Scandi, for example, they will have all the Scandis rights, perfect. That will leave us as distributors the rest of the world. And so we will be able to give you also some money, which we cannot do it before, because they have all the rights. So this new model is very interesting, and that will be the key, I think, with some local streamer, like Netflix or Amazon.
But
yes, and to try to combine broadcasters and streamers in every region, not territory, because territory, we are just alone. It's even big territories like France or Germany. At the end, it's just a territory. But if we think about region, like the Scandi or the Nordics, like the Benelux, like the Balkans, and or the CEE, it's more interesting because we can really try to do some co-productions, even if it's tough.
Karin, is that your experience as well? How important is international funding for you, financing?
International funding is very important, but we also need to see everything a little bit on project by project base, because not all projects are naturally something that you can co-produce or that is attractive outside your own country.
Yeah.
So there are different models. I mean, what we have seen the last 1 year, 18 months is also streamers going back to local content.
Yeah.
Before, they were a lot about maybe local. You can make it in Italian, but it needs to have an international appeal. That's not really working anymore. So it's all, or it's very international and mainly in English language, or it's local. Kind of the space in between is the hardest to finance. Like, it's easier to finance really high quality, expensive stuff than the middle kind of
because it's hard to find international financing.
No, but if you have a very high-end international production in English language with maybe 1 or 2 really big talents, then you get it financed. And if you have a very local but quite low budget and you have one broadcaster, and we in Italy, we're a little bit lucky because we have a very good tax incentive scheme, so we as producers bring our kind of piece of the financing already from the beginning.
What's the percentage?
Well, right now, it's been discussions in Italy. Italians, they talk a lot. Sorry, no offense. It's been discussions for 2 years to reduce the tax credit, but during COVID, it was raised, it was increased to 40%.
40.
40.
Yeah.
So it's on all eligible spend, you get 40% back. Now on TV is 40% of 85%, which is 34-ish. But we are waiting for the new decree to be published, and it will probably go down a bit. But I mean, it's very good money.
It's still very beneficial, and it actually makes a difference between financing or not financing a show, I think.
And it's also gives us leverage as producers, because one of the regulations say you have to, the independent producer have to have a certain amount of IP rights, so detaining rights, and we have to have a certain amount of exploitation rights. So whatever broadcaster that comes and wants to kind of use our tax credit can't just take everything. There are rules that protects us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so many interesting things that you said. I think it's one is that we don't see that many mid-level budgets being, rationally good for the upside anymore. So it's either higher or very low. So there's a lot of conversation about how to improve the financing plans, tax incentive, and so on. Also, I think for investors like ourselves, allow producers to retain IP.
Yes.
That creates the upside in the long terms, again, for the enduring...
it's the only way to create long-term revenue.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then going back to what we saw yesterday about streaming company maybe not having the biggest commissioning check anymore, well, I think it can be seen as an opportunity because, again, if you are selling, it could become, again, soon a selling market and you can monetize a bit more. And I think that it has to be an opportunity that we need to explore. And I understand some production company need to probably rethink the business plan a little bit, moving away from the commission for hire type of production for hire, type of business, and being more of an entrepreneur and finding the money to fully finance, produce and sell. Risky, but then again, for certain type of investors, that's very appealing. And I think this market correction that we saw happening last year, it was kind of predictable, right? Maybe not in the way it happened, how fast it was, but there was way too much content out there. We knew that. And
we all knew it wasn't sustainable. I mean, we were all not able to watch everything anyway.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, we talked a lot about possible collaborations. I know, like I said earlier, that you are really good at knowing what every territory in Europe has to offer in terms of possible co-productions. What are the most interesting territories right now for you?
Well, it's really interesting because doing our jobs, it's also doing some politics and geopolitics and trying to follow the different government and change in every region. I would say that, of course, besides the 4 main networks, which are France, Germany, Italy, and Spain, we have a lot of opportunities everywhere. So we know, of course, the Benelux, we know the Scandi, of course, but the new...
You can't say, I mean, you cannot say Scandi right now,
yes,
obviously.
Nordics, because I want to include my friend from Finland and Iceland. But all the CE, meaning the Baltics, the Central Europe, and the Balkans, are also very interesting. And I think that for those territories, trying to co-produce and trying to find ways to have better productions is very interesting, and that's where the new market will be very soon. So, but for all those territories, they need to agree to work together and to do some co-production. When you know that even in Belgium, they cannot even do some co-production between the Flemish and the French-speaking territory. and even in Scandi, from what I've heard, you don't do much co-production between Norway and Sweden or Denmark. And so that's the main, I would say, the main challenge for the next year.
But I also think that we should define co-production and pre-buy here.
Absolutely, and from talking about the previous panel yesterday, for me it's really different. Co-production is not pre-buy. No. Pre-buy is what we can do as a distributor, and trying to say, okay, you have a show, and we can give you, we can ask a broadcaster, a streamer, and it will be a pre-buy, which is less and less easy, by the way, because we have so many programs that broadcaster and streamers, they don't need to take that risk, so they want to wait for the first footage, because we have so many series, so there is no issue to have this series before other one. So pre-buy is really what we can do as a distributor. It's very interesting. It can finance your show, but it's a pre-buy. Co-production is something very different. It's like being in friends or being in love. Not the same. And so not sure about the metaphor.
Wait, and who's the friends and who's the love? So friendship is pre-buy.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the metaphor. But co-production is really something you are doing with another partner in another country. It needs to be organic. It needs to have real, and it will last for 3 years. It will be tough, and so you need to get along for at least 3 years. So it's very difficult to do co-production. It needs to be organic. And talking about what we call the small countries, because there is what Europe says about small countries like the Balkans or other countries. I think it's very important to consider also those countries not to be a servicing countries, where you can have the tax credits and everything, some beautiful location, some studios and everything, and so doing your stuff over there and going back to your home, like Game of Thrones or many production used to do this. They can also provide very good talents.
Stories.
Very good stories, talents, writers and DOP and directors, and that's. But we need to look after that. Yeah, we need to search for them.
Karin.
No, I just wanted to add something about co-productions, because as I said, I come from film finance, where co-productions are kind of the core of everything. Co-productions are for life, because you get IP rights. IP rights, you sit on them and you don't let them go, and you are there. So absolutely, you need to find the partners you want to
tell stories with.
And get married to. It's like it's a marriage. It's long,
and tough.
Yeah, and
difficult.
Tough love.
And you fight. But co-productions, when it comes to film, the film world is very much regulated through the European Convention, through different authorities, CNC, the ministry in Italy, ICA in Spain, whatever it is. And there are rules. TV, it just came out on the market that you can co-produce, but there were no rules. So it was very, we did a big production called The Young Pope in 2014. And because we had the tax credit from Italy, so we had leverage from the beginning. And we put together 3 independent producers, European independent producers, and 6 broadcasters from 6 different countries. And it was very weird because there were no rules to follow. And it was like, what do we do now? Oh, I don't know. Maybe we can do it like this. Okay, we do like that. And that became the rule. And it's so fun. I think it's fun. But to live in this world that is constant changing, because you kind of create the way we all create the way we work. And that's very stimulating.
I'm sorry, because we're actually, I know it feels like we're only like getting up to speed right now, but we're actually out of time already. It's, unfortunately, we're, you should probably continue like off stage.
We can be
the break.
backstage and having a coffee and a glass of wine.
But I'm going to take 1 minute to ask you, tell me in one sentence, what is that you're going to do so we're in a better place here next year? Emmanuel.
Okay. I will try to do more and more co-production and help more and more producers to finance their project, and being more and more present from the very beginning of the development.
Okay, very beginning, you all heard that. Please go to him with your
I can do many more things, but I have 1 minute.
Yeah. Andrea.
Well, I hope by this time next year, we'll be able to announce at least 1 or 2 partners in Europe and in TV. So that's, I think, our goal.
Fantastic. Karin.
Yeah, we will continue to work. The show must go on, and work on projects we love, projects we believe in, try to reach the highest quality possible, and hope that the people out there will enjoy what we do.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for also showing us the need for European co-productions, for collaborations between the clusters, the territories. I hope we all take that with us. From this panel, thank you, Emmanuel, Andrea, Karin. Give them a hand.